Hello, dear parish family, and all who are watching. Welcome to another edition of Sabbath Reflections as we break open the Word now for the solemnity of Christ, the King of the universe. On this day, we celebrate the very end of the liturgical year. And on it, on this occasion, the church decides to kind of put us a reminder that at first seems obvious, but at second glance reminds us of who's really in charge. That the buck stops, so to speak, with Jesus. He is the source and summit. He is the reason for everything that is and for everything that will be, including what he does in and through us, especially as Catholic Christians. A few weeks ago, as I was watching all the election coverage, I was kind of struck by the trust that we put in our civil leaders. And I began to ask questions, both as a philosopher, or at least a student of philosophy. I'm far from a philosopher, but as someone who asks those questions, has been trained to do so, and as a minister of the church, I began to ask myself a few things. First of all, how much trust do we put in our civil leaders, honestly? And how do we ourselves show us as part of their camp, or their campaign, or their platform? Secondly, how much do we actually believe that they are capable of doing? I probably don't have to fill in the blanks for you, as in your mind, I'm sure you can imagine caricatured, the usual taglines and symbols that have accompanied those of either campaign, especially in the presidential race. I don't have to fill that in for you. There's nothing unusual, of course, about any of that, as politics has always seemed to be that way, except for one disturbing reality that I've discovered and that I've noticed. God seems absent from the equation. This year, more than others, it seems that his love, his peace, and his promise of redemption seemed kind of lost amidst all of the noise of one cheering for their guy or heckling for the other one. Regardless of who the people were supporting, it seemed like all their eggs were in one basket. If this person wins, then he will restore everything that is right and good. If this person loses, if our guy loses, then hope is lost, and vice versa. And above all this, friends, what struck me in a particularly sad way was that of all the mean, spewing sort of hatred that just kind of came to the surface. No more sense about civil discussions about which policy seems best, or discussing things that are near and dear to our hearts for the betterment of all. No, it was all-out war. And like war, mercy was not an ingredient in many people's actions and words and what have you. Social media alone, my gosh, was like an absolute, it was no man's land. You couldn't lift anything without being shot at by the other guy, and comments here and sort of things. Heaven forbid we disagree on things at times. But friends, I think it's in a time like this, I look to the church's wisdom, being the sacrament of Christ, flowing with his wisdom, that we actually are reminded each year, as if to say, let's remember what's important in the big moments. Let's call our minds back to focus that Christ is the King. This solemn message is given to us each year to tell us that he is the one who receives the glory. He's the one in whom we place our trust. He's the one who gives us hope, friends. Have we forgotten that at times? Because the fact of the matter is, no matter how much we might support one candidate over the other, thinking that they're going to do the best for what we believe as Christians and as people, no human entity corporation, group, and especially individual can offer the peace that Christ can offer. None of them can do it. You know why? Because they're not him. Because they're finite. Because they all fall short of the glory of God, the sheer glory that is the power that runs the universe, and that for us should run our universe, to be quite honest. While earthly leaders and authorities can do great good, Lord knows that. And we as Americans hopefully use that sense of our rights, our ability to participate in government, and hold that with some solemnity in our hearts, and joy or hopes, whatever it is. We should always keep things in perspective, as the church reminds us this Sunday in a very special way, very poignant way. Christ is our King. And as Christians at our very core, more than being Americans, even more than being New Mexicans, and let me tell you, I'm a very proud New Mexican, Christ is King. Christ is our identity. Christ is who we are. And we show ourselves being part of his kingdom. Hopefully by our conviction, hopefully by using our charity and compassion, especially when we're talking about something as heated as politics, and above all, by putting our trust and faith in him. Though appointed and not elected, Jesus is the face of God. And his face is full of conviction, respect, deference, dignity, and above all, love. Are we faithful members of his party? Do we show ourselves to be loyal subjects of his kingdom by our actions? Or we could just simply ask the question, who is your leader, and how do you pledge your support? Happy Feast of Christ the King, dear family. God bless you, and our King will lead us to great hope.